Hello, welcome to the Daily Bell Ringer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the U.S. Constitution and the Committee of Detail. All right, so the Committee of Detail. If you think back to the Declaration of Independence, remember there was that thing that they called the Committee of Five that was really responsible for writing the content of the Declaration of Independence. Again, headed by Thomas Jefferson and notably, Benjamin Franklin and John Adams being part of that. But, if you know anything about government, it's always about committees. They always, appoint small little groups to go and, work on these, individual things. And so with the Constitution, the group that is really attributed with being the ones who really wrote down the main content of the Constitutional Convention was this group known as the Committee of Detail. So it was on July 24th, 1787, that this group was really put together. And if you think about it, it was in May of 1787 that the Constitutional Convention had begun, and here by end of July, they kind of realized, hey, we need a group of people to start writing down all of these different ideas because, we have those ideas like, the Virginia plan that was being presented by the big states, and then the idea of the smaller states having equal representation being the New Jersey plan. And so all these different plans are being thrown around, and so they've said, well, we need somebody to, sit and write all this down to kind of say, this is what our discussion is all about. And so this committee is put together, this Committee of Detail. And the Committee of Detail was headed by a guy named John Rutledge, who was from South Carolina. He's the head of the committee, of course. He goes on to become a member of the Supreme Court. And, he was his nickname was Dictator John. Because he was kind of so strict and everything. All right, another person that was on the committee. A lot of these guys, lesser known, I guess, founding fathers. Edmund Ruffin. Who was, later became the Attorney General, which the Attorney General is kind of the main legal advisor for the country, and he also goes on to become Secretary of State, which is kind of our primary person that deals with foreign affairs, that talks to other countries and everything. Also on the committee was Oliver Ellsworth, who also goes on to become a member of the Supreme Court. Actually, he becomes the third Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. James Wilson, who also goes on to become a member of the Supreme Court. Actually, all of these guys, I forgot to mention this, all of these guys that were a member of the Committee of Detail, they were all lawyers. All right, so it's no surprise that most of them go on to become members of the Supreme Court. All right, and then lastly, Nathaniel Gorham is the last member here of it. He had helped to draft a constitution for the state of Massachusetts, and so he was on the committee. All right, so those are the guys that were on this Committee of Detail. So they met, again, July 24th is when they started meeting, and actually they got done pretty quick with writing down their stuff because by early August of 1787, they handed over this, this draft of the Constitution. All right, and so basically from August 6th until September 10th of 1787, the Constitutional Convention argued over this draft that the Committee of Detail had gotten together. And basically what they did was they went, line by line and article by article and argued it and basically, finalized, okay, are we okay with this line? Are we okay with this line in the Constitution? All right, now, after that entire process was over and they had kind of agreed upon this is what we want written in it, it was handed over to another committee, which again, committee work, like I said, is part of government. This was known as the Committee of Style, was the one that was actually going to be in charge of technically writing down the actual, what was going to become the official Constitution. It was headed by a guy named William Samuel Johnson, who was from Connecticut and who ironically during the American Revolution was opposed to the American Revolution, actually thought independence was a bad idea, but now that we were independent, he was on board, and so he starts helping to clean up this document. Other people that were on this committee of note, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, both on this Committee of Style that, was basically getting it written. So the actual technical Constitution, the actual, words that we see today that are on display, or the document that we see on display at the National Archives, was actually written in hand by a guy named Jacob Shallus. He was a penman, and he was paid $30 to write this on 4 pieces of parchment, which is basically treated animal skin. And so all of the Constitution is in Shallus's hand, except for there's a list of states, and that's actually Alexander Hamilton that wrote that part of the Constitution. All right, so thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something there about the Constitution.